For example, take the case one historian is uh, suppose one historian is writing something about one individual or one group or community or incident or events. During his writing, he has many sources or he may have many sources, and while classifying the sources, he also prioritizes the sources. For example, suppose he's having 10 sources, and based on these 10 sources, he gives importance on 2 to 3 sources which he or she thinks that those 2 to 3 sources are very important. While explaining one specific events or ideas based on these 3 sources, and after that he reaches into a conclusion. That conclusion may be accepted widely by the historians or may be accepted by the people who are the history readers or may not be. Because the problem is that suppose you are historians and you are doing research on one particular individual or one particular events, and you have a bunch of sources, and while dealing with the sources you also classify the sources, and based on the classification of those sources you come into the conclusion, and whatever conclusion you derive may not be acceptable to me, because sources may be same but interpretation may vary from person to person. One historian, he may or she may have different opinion about the same context or same event. Other scholar may have, other opinion. So it's quite interesting phenomena in the history. Generalization is not applicable in all sphere. When there is exact data or authentic data and accepted by most of the or accepted by all, then we can come into the conclusion that's known as generalization. So if someone asks you or anybody can ask you whether generalization is applicable in history, the answer would be in the all events, all incident, generalization cannot be possible except few authentic available records. If our authentic dates facts are available, then and there is no debate, then generalization is possible. But when in the suppose that there is event first order, for example, and that event is having the 4-year periods, and during that period many things happened, many diplomatic relation developed, during the war time many changes happened. During that time generalization may not be applicable in that particular events or while dealing with that events. ଆପଣ ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ? ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛନ୍ତି ମତେ? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ସାର୍ କିଛି କ୍ଲିୟର ଶୁଭୁନି।
ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଶୁଭୁନି ନା କେବଳ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଶୁଭୁନି?
ମତେ ତ ଶୁଭୁନି ସାର୍, ମୁଁ କହିପାରିବିନି।
No, what about others? I'm asking, ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛନ୍ତି?
मुझे तो सुना
ମତେ ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛନ୍ତି? ମେ ବି ନେଟୱାର୍କ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ରହୁଛି, ଠିକ ଅଛି ନା ନାହିଁ, ଯାହାଫଳରେ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ଏଇଭଳିଆ କ୍ରିଏଟ ହଉଛି। ଆମେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କର ଅଛି, ଥିମରେ ଅଛି, ଆପଣଙ୍କର ସବଜେକ୍ଟରେ ଅଛି। ଆମେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ କହୁଛେ, ସୋ ବେସିକାଲି ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଇଭେଣ୍ଟସ ହଉ କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଟାଇମ ଫ୍ରେମ ଭିତରେ ଆମେ କହୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ we don't have one specific world view, then generalization does not carry forward. ୟା ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିର କୌଣସି, ବିକଜ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଇଜ ଦ ପାଷ୍ଟ, ଯଦି ପାଷ୍ଟର କୌଣସି ଇଭେଣ୍ଟସ କୌଣସି ଇନସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଉପରେ ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ସିଙ୍ଗଲ ଭ୍ୟୁ ନ ରହୁଛି କିମ୍ବା ସିଙ୍ଗଲ ଓପିନିଅନ ନ ରହୁଛି କିମ୍ବା ସିଙ୍ଗଲ ଆଉଟକମ୍ ନ ରହୁଛି, ଦେନ୍ we cannot establish the idea of generalization in the for that historical context or for that historical events. এই পয়েন্টটা বুঝি পারলে? ମତେ ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛନ୍ତି ନା କି ଶୁଣି ପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ? ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛନ୍ତି?
ସାର୍
ଏମିତି ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ହଉଛି।
କନେକ୍ସନ ପାଇଁ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ହଉଛି, ତାପରେ ଏମିତି ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ କଣ କରିବା ଆମେ? We can't do anything because it is not in our hand. So ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ କଣ ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଯୋଉ?
ଆଉ ଥରେ କୁହନ୍ତୁ ଟିକେ।
ହଁ, ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ କଥା କହୁଛେ, ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ ଅର୍ଥ ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ। ଇଟ୍ ମିନ୍ସ we need to have common view in the history writing or in history or in history discipline. It means suppose because as history is the past, we may have different sources or facts. In such situation, it is very difficult for the historian to establish a general view about a particular incident or events, because we may have multiple sources or evidences related to that particular events or incident, and while dealing with those facts or events, historians also classify the sources or events. So in that direction, when he comes into a conclusion, he may have one opinion which is not similar to the other historian's opinion. ପଏଣ୍ଟଟା ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ? ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି ଯେତେ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିକୁ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ ସବୁ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟେବଲ ନୁହଁ। ରିଜନ ହଉଛି କାରଣ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ସୋର୍ସ ନଥାଏ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ। we have some of the sources which are widely accepted by all. ମୁଁ ଯୋଉଟା କହିଲି ଗାନ୍ଧୀ 1869ରେ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଇଥିଲେ, nobody counter that or nobody question that particular fact. But why did Gandhi became a part of Indian national movement can be questioned, because we have different kind of opinion. So Gandhi born in 1869, here generalization is acceptable because we have single opinion or single view. But while dealing with the courses of the events or the involvement of one particular individual in any incident, then we may have different opinion. And here historians have their different opinion or different viewpoints on one specific incident or events. The reason is that we have different sources or facts to deal with the same situation or same events. So in that sense, generalization cannot be drawn for that particular historical incident. এই পয়েন্টটা বুঝিপারলে?
Yes, sir.
या ଆମେ ଯଦି ଶୁଣନ୍ତୁ, ଏଇଟା ସବୁ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ରେ ଆସିବ, what you will do basically, because it's a very interesting thing. ଏଥିରେ କିଛି specific difficulties ବୁଝିବାକୁ ନାହିଁ। ଯଦି question ଆସିବ whether generalization is applicable in history or generalization can be established in history, then the answer would be yes, it can be applicable in the history, but partially. The reason is that for all the historical phenomena or for all the historical events, we don't have a singular outcome, or we don't have single outcome or conclusion for that specific events or incident. You can give many examples to deal with that particular thing. You can give the example of ancient India, medieval India, or modern India. So based on that, you can conclude that history generalization is, no, of course, applicable in the history, but also cannot be applicable in the history in many events or incident. ୟା ଅର୍ଥ ହେଉଛି ପାର୍ସିଆଲି ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ହେଇପାରିବ। କେତେବେଳେ ହେଇପାରିବ? ଯେତେବେଳେ ୱି ହାଭ୍ ଅଥେଣ୍ଟିକ୍ ରେକର୍ଡସ୍ ଥିବ। ଅଥେଣ୍ଟିକ୍ ରେକର୍ଡସ୍ that records cannot be challenged by the historians. or won't be challenged by the historians. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଡେଟ୍ ଅଛି କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ୍ ଯେଉଁ ଡେଟ୍ ଅଛି କିମ୍ବା ନେମ୍ ଅଛି କିମ୍ବା ପ୍ଲେସ୍ ଇଭେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ପ୍ଲେସ୍ ଅଛି, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା ନାହିଁ କି? ଧରାଯାଉ ଭାବି ନିଅନ୍ତୁ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ୱାର୍ କାହିଁକି ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଲା, ହ୍ୱାଇ ଡିଡ୍ ଦ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ୱାର୍ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟେଡ୍ ଇନ୍ ଡ୍ୟୁରିଂ, ଏଇ ଯଦି କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସୁଛି ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ ଆର୍ ଦ ଇମିଡ଼ିଏଟ୍ କଜ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଦ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ୱାର୍, ଫର୍ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ୍ the immediate cause of first world war, we know that the killings or the assassination of the prince and his wife. You might have read through the acquired Ferdinand, that the killings of these two people led to the first world war. ঠিক আছে না নাই? যেତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଏଇ ପଏଣ୍ଟଟା କହୁଛେ, it is widely accepted by all historians because we don't have different viewpoint on that particular theme or on that particular incident. ଯଦି କେହି ପଚାରୁଛନ୍ତି ଫାଷ୍ଟ ୱାର୍ଲଡର କାରଣ କ'ଣ, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା ନାହିଁ କି, ଦେନ୍ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ କି ନା ଏଇ କାରଣ ଯୋଉ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସାସିନେସନ୍ ହେଲା ଆମେ ସେଇ ଯୋଗୁଁ ଆମର ଫାଷ୍ଟ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ୱାର୍ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଇଛି, ବିକଜ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟେଡ୍ ବାଇ ଅଲ୍, ନୋ ବଡି ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାର ଭ୍ୟୁ। ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ଅର୍ଥ ହେଉଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିର କୌଣସି ଇଭେଣ୍ଟସ୍ କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ କୌଣସି ଗ୍ରୁପ କିମ୍ବା କିଛି ବି ଘଟିଛି, ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିଆନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍ ଆସୁନି, ସିଙ୍ଗଲ ଓପିନିଅନ୍ ସମସ୍ତେ ଗୋଟେ ପଏଣ୍ଟକୁ ଏଗ୍ରି କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କହିବା ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟେବଲ୍ ଅର୍ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟେଡ୍ ଇନ୍ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି। ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେମ୍ ଜିନିଷ ପାଇଁ ୱି ହାଭ୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍, ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଆପ୍ରୋଚ୍, ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଭ୍ୟୁ ପଏଣ୍ଟସ୍ ଆସୁଛି, ସେତେବେଳେ ଜେନେରାଲ କ୍ୟାନ୍ ନଟ୍ ବି ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟେଡ୍ ଅର୍ କ୍ୟାନ୍ ନଟ୍ ବି ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ୍ଡ ଇନ୍ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି। ଯେଉଁଟା ମୁଁ କହିଲି 1869ରେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଲେ ଏଇଟା ସମସ୍ତେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମେ କହିବା ତାଙ୍କ ଧରାଯାଉ ହ୍ୱାଇ ଡିଡ୍ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ had better relationship with his own wife, ତାଙ୍କ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ସହିତ ତାଙ୍କର କିଛି ଯେଉଁ ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ମତଭେଦ ଥିଲା, କ'ଣ ପାଇଁ ମତଭେଦ, ତାଙ୍କର କାହିଁକି ମତଭେଦ ଥିଲା, ସେତେବେଳେ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍, ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଭ୍ୟୁ ପଏଣ୍ଟ। ସେଇ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଭ୍ୟୁ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଆସେ କିମ୍ବା ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ କନକ୍ଲୁଜନ ଡ୍ର ହୁଏ, ସେ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ହେଇପାରିବ ନାହିଁ। ଏ ପଏଣ୍ଟଟା ବୁଝିଲେ?
Yes.
Okay. So if the question comes, you can give many examples to justify that. या अर्थ हूँ सोर्सेस डिफरेन्सेस रोचे, क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ सोर्सेस डिफरेन्स कहीं जेनरेशन हो पारुनी, कारण जितेबले कोर्सेस ऑफ द इवेंट्स आसु जेनरलाइजेशन आमर हो पारिबनी, कारण से भितर कौन आसुची विभिन्न आमर इंडिविजुअल मेंटालिटीज आसु, हेलो आम ऑडिबल?
सर
इंटरेस्टिंग, कारण ऑनलाइन क्लास सेटा प्रॉब्लम माने एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट दिया होछि, बट ड्यू टू द नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम जहाँफल समस्ते सफर करुँच, ठीक अच्छे, जोटा ऑफलाइन प्रॉब्लम हुए नहीं सेमती। सो आम कहूचे कहीं गोटे जेनरलाइजेशन हिस्ट्री रे सब बेले एक्सेप्टेबल नुह कि सब बेले एस्टाब्लिश करी हुए ना। या रीजन होची कौन सी हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट्स रे जेते बेले गोटे इंडिविजुअल इमोशन अप्रोच सेते बेले इन्वॉल्व होची, सेते बेले आमे जेनरलाइजेशन डेवलप करि परिबानी। ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଉଦାହରଣ ଦଉଥିଲେ କିମ୍ବା ଏକ୍ଜାମ୍ପଲ ଦଉଥିଲେ ସେଥିରେ କ'ଣ ହଉଛି ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କର ନିଜ ମିସେସଙ୍କ ସହିତ କେମିତି ରିଲେସନ ଥିଲା. If the question comes, what kind of relation did Gandhi have with his own wife? ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମର କ'ଣ ହଉଛି ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ ଆସୁଛି. ଓପିନିଅନ ଆସିବାର କାରଣ ହଉଛି ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ ମଧ୍ୟ ଡିଫର କରୁଛି. ଯଦି ଆପଣମାନେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ନିଜ ଲେଖା ପଢ଼ିବେ, ଯଦି ସେ ନିଜ ମିସେସଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କିଛି ଲେଖିଥାନ୍ତି, ୱାଇଫ୍ ବିଷୟରେ ଲେଖିଥାନ୍ତି, ସେଟା ଗୋଟେ ଥିଓରି ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ କରିବ କିମ୍ବା ଗୋଟେ କନକ୍ଲୁଜନ ଡ୍ର କରିବ. ଯଦି ଆପଣ ତାଙ୍କ ମିସେସଙ୍କ ଲେଖା ପଢ଼ିବେ ସେଟା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ବାହାରିପାରେ. ଯେଉଁମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ସମ୍ପର୍କୀୟ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଯେଉଁମାନେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିଛନ୍ତି ବହୁତ କ୍ଲୋଜଲି ଦେ ମେ ହାଭ୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍. ଯେ ତାର ଅର୍ଥ ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ଇଭେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ପାଇଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍ ଆସୁଛି ସେତେବେଳେ କ'ଣ ହେଉଛି ଆମେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ କରିପାରିବାନି. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଇଭେଣ୍ଟ ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ଇନସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ପାଇଁ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ଅଥେଣ୍ଟିକ୍ ରିପୋର୍ଟ ଅଛି କିମ୍ବା ଗୋଟେ ଅଥେଣ୍ଟିକ୍ ରିପୋର୍ଟ କିମ୍ବା ଅଥେଣ୍ଟିକ୍ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ ଆମେ ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ କରିପାରୁଥିବା ତାହେଲେ ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କହିପାରିବା ସେଠି ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ହେଇପାରିବ. ତ ଇନ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ସେନ୍ସ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଇଜ୍ ବୋଥ୍ applicable or generalization is applicable in history. At the same time it may not be applicable due to the variety of the sources or due to the uh, due to the rise of different opinion or viewpoints of the historians. ଏ ପଏଣ୍ଟଟା ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ?
Yes, sir.
ଓକେ. ସୋ ଯଦି କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସିବ ଆପଣମାନେ କ'ଣ କରିବେ ତାକୁ ଆପଣ ବହିରେ ଯେଉଁ ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ ଥିବ ଆଉ କିଛି ଥିବ କିନ୍ତୁ ତା ମେଜର ଥିମ୍ଟା ହେଉଛି ଏଇଠି. ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା ନାଇଁ କି? ଦୁଇ ତିନିଟା ଜିନିଷ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ କାହିଁକି ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ହେବନି କାରଣ ଆମ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍. ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଜିନିଷ କାହିଁକି ହେଉନି ବିକଜ ୱି ମେ ହାଭ୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍. ଯେତେବେଳେ ସିଙ୍ଗିଲ୍ ସୋର୍ସ ରହିବ ତାହେଲେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ହେବାର ପସିବିଲିଟି ରହିବ. ଯେତେବେଳେ ମଲ୍ଟିପଲ୍ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ ହେଉଛି ଆଣ୍ଡ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ କ୍ୟାନ୍ ବି ଅଲସୋ କଣ୍ଟେଷ୍ଟେଡ୍ ଅର୍ କ୍ଲାସିଫାଏଡ୍ ବାଇ ଦ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିଆନ୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ୱେଜ୍ ତାହେଲେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ସେଠି ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମରେ ଆସୁଛି କିମ୍ବା ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ସେତେବେଳେ ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ କରି ହେବନି ଇନ୍ ଦ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି. ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's talk about anal school और जोड़ा आमे कहूचे टोटल हिस्ट्री जो तबला हमारा आसुचे आमे ताको कहूचे. ठीक है ना नहीं कि सो कौन कहले
ଆମର ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଅଛି ମାନେ
हाँ लोकल हिस्ट्री आई विल कम टू दैट. ओके. anal school टोटल हिस्ट्री भी अच्छी ना.
Yes, sir. Announce भी है.
Okay. Okay. Someone told about the local history, no? Or you can say micro history, right? Micro history अलग आसी ना कि गोटे अच्छी मते कहंदो.
ଅଲଗା ଅଛି.
So micro history is different from the local history ଆପଣଙ୍କ କୋର୍ସରେ ଅଛି, right? Okay. So we'll come to these two themes. Difference ଟା କ'ଣ similarity କ'ଣ ହଉଛି. See why local history develops. Local history develops in 1970s and 80s. During that time local history became so prominent. Local history means when historians give importance the happenings of the different regional or local levels. That is known as local history. That means, or if you simplify this particular sentence, when historians give importance to the local or the shift or the historical shift in the different local level and the influence of that local phenomena, the influence of the local phenomena in the larger historical framework, that is known as local history. या अर्थ होउची जदि आमे लोकल हिस्ट्री काहाकू कहूचे किंबा तार इंपोर्टेंसटा कोन जेतेबेले हिस्टोरियन गोटे स्पेसिफिक रीजन कथा को स्मॉल रीजन कथा small localities kotha ko the happenings of that he tries to build a relationship with that particular local history or particular phenomena of the local people or local community or the local region with a larger framework, then it is known as local history. ये अर्थ होची ଯେତେବେଳେ ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଟା କେତେବେଳେ ଆମର ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାନ୍ସ ରହିଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ 1970s 80sରେ ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାନ୍ସ ବଢିଛି. ରିଜନ ହେଉଛି historian argues that local history or the you can say the history of the small group or community gives equal importance the way majoritarian majoritarian having in the history is also known as local history. अर्थ आम जब सिंप्लीफाई करूचे प्रत्येक व्यक्ति किंबा कम्युनिटी किंबा ग्रुप इट मे बी लोकल इट मे बी रीजनल और स्मॉल ग्रुप और द रिलेटिव लार्ज ग्रुप जिते बड़े हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस रे तांकर इन्वॉल्वमेंट रहुची and they also contribute to the historical process. Along with they have also equal important in the historical narratives or historical evolution. We call it local history or local history during specific time. During that time, signifies a lot. ए पॉइंट बुझी पारे आमर प्रत्येक जितेबले आम कहूचे लोकल हिस्ट्री आम क्या कहूचे प्रत्येक व्यक्ति प्रत्येक कम्युनिटी ठीक अच्छे किंबा प्रत्येक ग्रुप ऑफ ए स्पेसिफिक लोकालिटी जितेबले लार्जर हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस रे इन्वॉल्व रोची ठीक अच्छे ना नहीं कि आउ इन्वॉल्वमेंट सहित से माने से शिफ्ट हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस रो शिफ्ट रे जितेबले कंट्रीब्यूशन रोची सेतेबले आमे कहूचे लोकल हिस्ट्री कैरी सम importance in the larger framework of the history. And in that sense, local history also is having direct link with the micro history. जोटा आपण मानकर कोर्स रे अछि. The micro history अर्थ होछि कोन जेते बेले when historian does research on one particular individual or community or small groups and their involvement in the larger historical process or their interaction with the larger historical events, we call it microhistory. So there is a narrow thin layer or there is a thin gap between local history and microhistory. Microhistory mostly deals with the individual or small group or community, whereas local history deals with the people community of one specific locality. Point बुझी पारले
Sir.
कन्फ्यूज हुंतुनी आमे डिफरेंस माइक्रो हिस्ट्री लोकल हिस्ट्री भीतर हमर कोन होउची माइक्रो हिस्ट्री होउची जेते बळे हिस्टोरियन डील विथ वन इनसिग्निफिकेंट आपण माने के ऑडियो बंद करंतु कार ऑडियो ऑन अछि काइंडली बंद करंतु ओके ऑडियो रे बंद करंतु के माने मते सुबु सब आमे कहूचे लोकल हिस्ट्री माइक्रो हिस्ट्री भीतर डिफरेंस टा कोन माइक्रो हिस्ट्री इज ऑल अबाउट one individual or one specific small group or community and their relationship with larger historical process is known as microhistory. That means जिते बड़ कौन सी व्यक्ति किंबा छोट कम्युनिटी किंबा छोट ग्रुप तांकर हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस रे तांकर इवोल्यूशन किंबा हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस जो इन्वॉल्वमेंट जहाँ रहे ताकू जिते बड़े आम डील करूचे किंबा ताकू जो स्टडी करूचे ताकू आम कहूचे माइक्रो हिस्ट्री. So here we may give importance one specific small locality or we may not give. कथार बुझी पा आम लोकल कहीं माइक्रो हिस्ट्री कौन डिफरेंस होउची लोकल हिस्ट्री अर्थ होउची वी आर गिविंग इंपोर्टेंस वन स्मॉल लोकालिटी. Here in the local history small geographical unity plays a role or important role. आम गोटे छोटे आउर इंपोर्टेंट गोटे छोटे उदाहरण दे परिबा माइक्रो हिस्ट्री रे आमे डील करि परिबा गोटे जो माने जाजाबर गोटे अछंती ग्रुप ठीक अछि ना नहीं कि जाजापुर जो ग्रुप अछंती ठीक अछि ना नहीं दे मूव फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर छोट ग्रुप 50 जन हे पारे 100 जन हे पारे तांकर मूवमेंट तांको ऊपर ट्रेडिंग कम्युनिटी हे पारे केही भी हे पारंती जेते बेले आमे तांको डील करूचे बिकॉज दे डोंट हैव एनी स्पेसिफिक लोकालिटी टू डील विथ धरा जा गोटे छोट आमर देखुथिबे बहुत टाइम रे अछंती जो माने फॉर एग्जांपल मन रखि तांतो गां रे हनी बिक्री करंती गां गळी रे इंडिजिनस हनी मोह बिक्री करंती शुणी पार्छनी मते
आज्ञा यस सर
गाँ रे मोह बिक्री करंती जानि छन 10 जन 20 जन लोक आसी गाँ रे मोह बिक्री करंती बोली
यस सर
जेते बेले ଓକେ, ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେମାନେ ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ରୁହନ୍ତିନି, ଠିକ ଅଛି ନା ନାଇଁ କି? ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ରୁହନ୍ତିନି, ଦେ ମୁଭ୍ ଫ୍ରମ୍ ୱାନ୍ ପ୍ଲେସ୍ ଟୁ ଆନାଦର। ଓକେ, ଆଣ୍ଡ ଦେ ଅଲସୋ ସେଲ୍ ହନି। ଯେତେବେଳେ ଫର ଇନଷ୍ଟାନ୍ସ ଦେ ଡୋଣ୍ଟ ହାଭ୍ ୱାନ୍ ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ୍ ରିଜିଓନାଲ ୟୁନିଟ୍ ଅଲ୍ ଲୋକାଲ ୟୁନିଟ୍ ଅର୍ ଜୋଗ୍ରାଫିକାଲ ୟୁନିଟ୍। ସେମାନେ କଣ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରୁ ଅନ୍ୟ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାକୁ ସେମାନେ ଯାଇକି ହନି ବିକ୍ରି କରୁଛନ୍ତି। You know, therefore, suppose you deal with those people. The interesting phenomena is that suppose you deal with with these people, their lifestyle, their economic condition, their cultural life, social life, whatever. In such situation, we don't have one specific geographical unit, which we call it locality. ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ରହୁନାହାନ୍ତି, ବିକଜ ଦେ ଆର୍ ଦ nomads. nomads ଅର୍ଥ ଯାଯାବର, ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି, ତାପରେ ତାଙ୍କ ଜିନିଷ ସେ ବିକ୍ରି କରି ଅନ୍ୟ ଜାଗାକୁ ମୁଭ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ତ ସେଇ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଆମେ କଣ କରୁଛେ, ଆମେ ତାର ତ we are dealing with one individual community or small groups who may have one specific geographical unity or may not have, that is known as microhistory। ଠିକ ଅଛି ନା ନାଇଁ? ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ମଲ୍ ଗ୍ରୁପକୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଡିଲ୍ କରୁଛେ, ତାଙ୍କ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲୋର କରିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁଛେ, ତାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି। ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି କଣ କହୁଛେ, ଇଟ୍ସ narrow gap, there is narrow gap between micro history and local history. Local history ହଉଛି it can be or it is having direct link with one specific small geographical unity which is known as locality। ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଗାଁର କିମ୍ବା ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଗୋଟେ ସାହିର କିମ୍ବା ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟିଆ ଏରିଆର ଯେତେବେଳେ ତା ଉପରେ ଆମେ କିଛି ଲେଖିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛେ, ତାକୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲୋର କରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛେ, ତାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି କହୁଛେ। ସେଥିରେ କଣ ହେଇପାରେ, ଆମେ ସ୍ମଲ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ଉପରେ ରିସର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିପାରନ୍ତି, ଷ୍ଟଡି କରିପାରନ୍ତି, ସ୍ମଲ ଗ୍ରୁପ ଉପରେ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରିପାରନ୍ତି, କିମ୍ବା ଦେୟାର କଲଚରାଲ ଲାଇଫ, ସୋସିଆଲ ଲାଇଫ ଯାହା ବି ଷ୍ଟଡି କରୁଛେ ତାପରେ କରିପାରନ୍ତି। ଏଥିରେ କଣ ହଉଛି, ଏଥିରେ ଲୋକାଲିଟି କିମ୍ବା ରିଜିଅନ ଯୋଉଟା ଆମେ କହୁଛେ, ସ୍ମଲ ରିଜିଅନ ଯୋଉଟା କହୁଛେ, ସ୍ମଲ ଜୋଗ୍ରାଫିକାଲ ୟୁନିଟି ସେଥିରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ରହୁଛି। ଏବେ ଜାଣିପାରିଲ, ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ଆମର along with one small group, small community, one specific geographical unity also or territorial unity also plays important role, where in the micro history geographical unity may not plays a very vital role। কথাটা বুঝি পারলে?
Yes, sir.
ডিফারেন্সটা বুঝি পারলেন ଆପଣ? Okay. Uh, See, the idea of microhistory, the idea of microhistory, uh, microhistory is developed, after 1960s and 70s. This is the time when we have the microhistory, and who are the profounder of this particular theory? One is Gionevi Levi, Gio Gionevi Levi, Gio Nevi Levi, Levi. Okay, and another another scholar is Carlo Ginzburg, CARLO, ଆପଣ ବହିରେ ଥିବ, ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ ଥିବ, Carlo Ginzburg। Okay, so Gionavi Levi and Carlo Ginzburg, they are the propounder of this particular theory that is known as microhistory। Okay, and why did they why such kind of phenomena exist? This theory first developed in Italy. This theory particular first developed in Italy, or microhistory first developed in Italy in 1960s and 70s onwards। Okay, the question comes, why did microhistory first developed in Italy? The reason is that to establish microhistory, or to deal with the microhistory, historians need to have all kind of evidences from top to bottom. That means they need to have more reliable or more authentic information about the region, about the people, about their involvement in the different administrative process, and that's why in such situation microhistory can be developed। ଇଟାଲୀରେ କାହିଁକି ଡେଭଲପ ହେଇଥିଲା? ରିଜନ ଇଜ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ସେମାନେ ସବୁ ପ୍ରକାର ରେକର୍ଡ ରଖୁଥିଲେ about the birth data of the people, about the death, about the census report, health report, everything। In Italy, they keep all the records of the individual. They hardly leave any individual of Italy, you know, which plays or who plays, a significant role in the society. That means in such direction, each and every individual matters a lot in such kind of society or Italian society. So that's why it became so easy for the historians to develop a theory by which they could establish or they could theorize the history of one specific individual or community or small group and their interaction with each other on the one hand, and on the other side they also interact with the state and government machineries. That's why microhistory first developed in Italy. এই পয়েন্টটা বুঝি পারলে?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
basically, okay. So basically, they hardly give importance. They're saying that they're not refuting that idea of, larger historical framework. That means they're not saying that political history or the major events should be sidelined. But at the same time, their argument is that along with major historical events, even small group or small communities does have their importance in the historical process, because the accumulation of the small groups and their ideas create a larger historical phenomena. If you sideline the importance or if you sideline the involvement of such small group or small society or small community in the historical process, then history writing or history, the scope of the history would be very limitized or would be very incomplete. এই পয়েন্টটা বুঝি পারলেন নাই?
Sir.
ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ, ଯଦି ଆମେ ପୁରା ସିମ୍ପଲ ଭାବରେ ଆହୁରି ଆମେ ପୁଣି ଥରେ ମୁଁ ରିପିଟ୍ କରୁଛି, କାହିଁକି ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଏତେ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାନ୍ସ ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ ତାର ବଢ଼ି ଚାଲିଛି? ରିଜନ୍ ହେଉଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଅପ୍ ଟୁ 1950s and 60s ଆମର ଆମେ କାହା ଉପରେ ବେଶୀ ଆମେ ଫୋକସ୍ କରୁଛେ? ଏବାଉଟ୍ ଦ କିଙ୍ଗ ଅର୍ ଏବାଉଟ୍ ଦ ରୁଲର୍ସ, ଏବାଉଟ୍ ଦ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ମେସିନାରୀ, ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ, or the achievements of the rulers, their involvement in different historical process. It may be war, it may be reforms, it may be other kind of things. ଯାହା ଫଳରେ କ'ଣ ହେଉଛି, ଯେଉଁ ସାଧାରଣ ଲୋକ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ କହୁଛେ ଏନିବଡି କମନ୍ ପିପଲ୍, ତାଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଜାଣିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛେ, ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଇଜ୍ ଭେରି ମଚ୍ ସାଇଲେଣ୍ଟ. ୟା ରିଜନ୍ ହେଉଛି କାରଣ ତାଙ୍କ ଉପରେ କିଛି ଲେଖା ହେଇନି କିମ୍ବା ତାଙ୍କୁ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ପ୍ରୋସେସରେ ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱ ଦିଆହେଇନି. ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ପ୍ରୋସେସରେ ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱ ଦିଆ ହେଉନି, ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଟା ଇନକମ୍ପ୍ଲିଟ୍ ହେଉଛି, ବିକଜ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଡଜ୍ ନଟ୍ ଓନ୍ଲି ବିଲଙ୍ଗ ଟୁ ଦ ରୁଲର୍ସ, ଇଟ୍ involves all the stakeholder of the society. Stakeholder means it may be larger phenomena or smaller phenomena. It may have big players or the small players. ତେଣୁ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ସୋସାଇଟିର ଗୋଟେ ଇଭଲ୍ୟୁସନରେ ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ, ଦ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଇଜ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇନ୍ ଅଲ୍ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ଇଭଲ୍ୟୁସନ୍ of a society, each and every individual have some kind of involvement or some kind of role in that process. So the role or the contribution of small group or individual or community should not be sidelined due to the involvement of rulers or their government, or rulers and queen or the royal family or the government. So that is the point we are dealing with in the micro history or in the local history. এই পয়েন্টটা বুঝি পারলে?
Yes, sir.
ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଦୁଇଟା ଜିନିଷ ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ, ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଲୋକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଭିତରେ ଡିଫରେନ୍ସ କିଛି ନାହିଁ. ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ପ୍ରପାଉଣ୍ଡ କେଉଁଠି ହେଇଛି? ଗିଓନାଭି ଲେଭି କରିଛନ୍ତି and Carlo Ginzburg. These are the two scholars. ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କର ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ ଥିବ, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା ନାଇଁକି? ଏଇଟା ଇଟାଲୀରେ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଇଥିଲା. ଇଟାଲୀରେ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେବାର କାରଣ ହେଉଛି, କାହିଁକି ଗୋଟେ ସୋସାଇଟିରେ ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଇଛି, ଅନ୍ୟ କାହିଁକି କେଉଁଠି ହେଇନି? ରିଜନ୍ ହେଉଛି ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ସେତେବେଳେ ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ୍ କରିହେବ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ, ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିଆନ୍ ହାଭିଂ ଲଟ୍ ଅଫ୍ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ ଫ୍ରମ୍ ଟପ୍ ଟୁ ବଟମ୍, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିଆନ୍ ପାଖରେ ସବୁ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ ଆଭେଲେବୁଲ୍ ରହୁଥିବ, ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ଘଟଣା ଉପରେ ବି, ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ଇନସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଉପରେ କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ ଉପରେ ବି ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର ରହୁଥିବ, ଇନଭଲ୍ଭମେଣ୍ଟ ରହୁଥିବ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି କହିପାରିବା. ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା? ଫର୍ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ୍, there is a book, during that time a book became so famous, that the title of the book is that the cheese and the om, the cheese and the om, WRM. ବହି ନାଁଟା ହଉଛି the cheese and the om. And in that book the importance has been given on one miller, जो काम କରୁଛନ୍ତି ମିଲରେ କାମ କରନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ସେ ଟୋଟାଲ ବହିଟା ବେସ୍ କରୁଛି। ଆଣ୍ଡ ଦିସ୍ ଇଜ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ନାରେଟିଭ୍ସ। ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ମିଲର ଉପରେ କାମ କରୁଛେ କିମ୍ବା କବଲର ଉପରେ କାମ କରୁଛେ ଗୋଟେ ସୋସାଇଟିର, ତା ଲାଇଫଷ୍ଟାଇଲ, ତା ଇନଭଲଭମେଣ୍ଟ ସୋସିଆଲ ପ୍ରୋସେସରେ ସେ କେମିତି ସୋସାଇଟିକୁ ପରସିଭ୍ କରୁଛି and what kind of perception he has developed, throughout his life, that also plays a very significant role in the historical process. ପଏଣ୍ଟଟା ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ନାହିଁ କି? ତେଣୁ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲର ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି କହୁଛି ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲର ହି ମେ ବି ଏଜୁକେଟେଡ୍, ହି ମେ ବି ଲିଟରେଟ୍ ଅର୍ ହି ମେ ନଟ୍ ବି, ଠିକ ଅଛି ନା ନାହିଁ କି? ବଟ୍ ଇଚ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଏଭ୍ରି ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ have some kind of involvement in the society, and if you have sources we can establish their viewpoint, and based on their viewpoint we can also reach into a conclusion, or we can also explore new things related to small groups, small community, or small bonds of people. ए पॉइंट बुझिपारे? तो ये अर्थ होची जदि आमे मन रखी था तो ये जिनसटा बहुत इंपोर्टेंट। That means this particular group, both local history and micro history, they are opposite to the elitist history. Elitist history अर्थ होची आगुर कोन होउथिला, आमे कोन जतेबेला फॉर एग्जांपल टेक द केस ऑफ मुगल पीरियड और सल्तनत पीरियड, what we study basically about the rulers, about their involvement in the administration, about their family, about their palace, about all kind of involvement did they have. ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରୁଛେ, ଆମେ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରୁଛେ କି ସାଧାରଣ ଲୋକ ସେଇ ଟାଇମରେ ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟିଆ ଗୋଟେ ସାଧାରଣ ଲୋକ କିମ୍ବା ଗୋଟେ କବଲର ହଉ କିମ୍ବା ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟିଆ ଗୋଟେ କୌଣସି ଲୋକ ସାଧାରଣ ଲୋକ ପିଜାଣ୍ଟସରେ ହଉ, ତାହାର ୱାର୍ଲଡ ଭ୍ୟୁ କ'ଣ ଥିଲା ତାକୁ ଆମେ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରୁନେ। ରିଜନ ହେଉଛି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ସୋସାଇଟି ଷ୍ଟଡି କରିବା ଡିଫିକଲ୍ଟ କାହିଁକି ହେଉଛି, କାରଣ ଆମ ପାଖରେ କିଛି ନା କିଛି ସୋର୍ସେସ୍ ନାହିଁ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ କନକ୍ଲୁଜନକୁ ଡ୍ର କରିବା। ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ, ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଅଲୱେଜ ବିଲିଭ୍ ଇନ୍ ଦ ସୋର୍ସେସ୍। ଯେତେବେଳେ historians have more sources, and they have been more significant sources, and they can establish the contribution of small individual or small community, in that sense local history or micro history can be established. आम इटाली सोसाइटी कथा कहूचे, इटाली सोसाइटी कहीं आम इटाली कहीं पार्ला, कारण गवर्नमेंट कीप्स ऑल द रेकॉर्ड्स रिलेटेड टू ईच एंड एवरी इंडिविजुअल, बार्थ हो, डेथ हो, सोशल सर्विस हो किंबा प्रोफेशन हो, ठीक है, हेल्थ रिपोर्ट हो, सेंसस हो, ईच एंड एवरी रिपोर्ट गवर्नमेंट कीप्स। तेणु गियोनेवी लेवी एंड कार्लो गिन्सबर्ग से माने कोन कले, इट बिकेम इजी फॉर द हिस्टोरियंस to deal with the small group or small society, and their contribution or their involvement in the larger historical framework. ये पॉइंट बुझी पारले ना नहीं कि?
यस सर।
हाँ, तो समझते अपन बुझले तो?
Yes, sir.
ओके,
Yes, sir.
कारण सुनो, ओके, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट आनल स्कूल। आनल स्कूल पे आपनकर अछि, ठीक अछि, जोटा को हमें टोटल हिस्ट्री भी कहूचे। आनल हिस्ट्री अछि, टोटल हिस्ट्री अछि आपनकर?
No.
आनल स्कूल अछि?
Yes, sir.
ओके, सो
ओरल हिस्ट्री में
कौन कहले रे?
ओरल हिस्ट्री,
सुनी पारलिनी।
ओरल हिस्ट्री।
अच्छा, ओरल हिस्ट्री, अच्छा अच्छा, मु ओके, आपण या पर क्लास अछि कार?
Yes, sir.
ओके,
Class उसके बाद।
I won't, okay, no problem, I won't take more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Okay, so the thing is that oral history means when historical events or historical ideas are transmitted orally from one generation to another without any kind of written evidences, that is known as oral history. That बुझी पारले, जेते बळे हिस्ट्री transmitted orally, or historical events or historical process transmitted orally from one generation to another generation without any kind of historical written evidences, that is known as oral narratives or oral history. We can give the example. Take the case of the tribal people. Many tribal people does not have their own language or does not have any kind of written evidences related to their life, related to their socio-cultural process, their economic process or economic political events or involvement. We don't have any kind of sources. In such situation, the question comes, don't you think they have also history? Yes, they have the history, but to establish their history or their involvement in the history, we don't have any kind of written evidences. Written evidences does not mean that they don't have the history. When written evidences are very much limitized, during such situation, oral history plays a very vital role because we don't have any records to establish the worldview of that particular tribal people or that particular group who does not have any kind of written records. So, but the problem is that, and prior to that, let me say that oral narratives means it is not written one. Suppose someone's grandfather, great grandfather, says something to his own grandchildren about the happenings of the past, and it transmitted from one generation to another, that is known as oral narratives or oral history. ଏ ଅର୍ଥ ସିମ୍ପ୍ଲିଫାଇଡ୍ ଆମେ କରିବା ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର କୌଣସି ଲିଖିତ ଆକାରରେ କୌଣସି ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ଗ୍ରୁପ କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ଉପରେ ଆମର ଲିଖିତ କିଛି ସୋର୍ସ ନାହିଁ, ରିଟିନ୍ ସୋର୍ସ ନାହିଁ, ଏ ଅର୍ଥ ନୁହେଁ ତାଙ୍କର ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ନାହିଁ, ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଅଛି। ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଲେଖିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛେ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କ'ଣ କରୁଛେ, ସେ ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାର ଗ୍ରୁପ ଉପରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଲେଖିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛେ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ରିଟିନ୍ ନାହିଁ, ଆମେ ଓରାଲ ନ୍ୟାରେଟିଭ୍ସ ଉପରେ ବିଶ୍ୱାସ କରୁଛେ। ଓରାଲ ନ୍ୟାରେଟିଭ୍ସ କିମ୍ବା ଓରାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଅର୍ଥ ହେଉଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଜେନେରେସନ୍ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜେନେରେସନ୍ ମୌଖିକ ଭାବରେ ଗୋଟେ କିଛି ଆଇଡ଼ିଆ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସମିଟ୍ ହେଉଛି। ଧରାଯାଉ ଭାବିନିଅ ମୋର ଗ୍ରେଟ୍ ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଡଫାଦର, ଆମର ଧରାଯାଉ ଆମ ସୋସାଇଟିରେ ଭାବନ୍ତୁ, ମୁଁ ଯେଉଁ କାଷ୍ଟ କିମ୍ବା ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍କୁ ବିଲଙ୍ଗ କରୁଛି, ଫର୍ ଏକ୍ଜାମ୍ପଲ୍, ଆମ ପାଖରେ କିଛି ରିଟିନ୍ ରେକର୍ଡସ୍ ନାହିଁ କିମ୍ବା ଆମ ଲେଖାଲିପି ନାହିଁ। ତେଣୁ କ'ଣ ହେବ, ଧରାଯାଉ ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଡଫାଦର ସିଏ ଧରାଯାଉ ସେ କେବେ କହିଥିବେ କାହାକୁ, ମୋ ବାପାଙ୍କୁ କହିଥିବେ କି ତାଙ୍କ ବାପାଙ୍କୁ ସେ କହିଥିବେ କି ବାବୁରେ ଆମ ଟାଇମ୍ରେ ଏଇଆ ସୋସାଇଟି ଥିଲା କିମ୍ବା ଆମ ଟାଇମ୍ରେ ଏଇଆ ଥିଲା, ନାରୀମାନଙ୍କ ସ୍ଥିତି ଏଇଆ ଥିଲା, ଆମର ଇକୋନୋମିକ୍ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍ ଏଇଆ ଥିଲା, କଲଚରାଲ୍ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍ ଏଇଆ ଥିଲା, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି। ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ପୁଅକୁ କହିଥିବେ କି ତାଙ୍କ ନାତିକୁ କହିଥିବେ, ତାଙ୍କ ନାତି ତାଙ୍କ ପୁଅକୁ ତା ନାତି କହୁଛନ୍ତି। ୟା ଫଳରେ କ'ଣ ହେଉଛି, ଗୋଟେ ଆଇଡ଼ିଆଟା ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସମିଟେଡ୍ ଟାଇମ୍ ଫ୍ରମ୍ ଗୋଟେ ଫେଜ୍ରୁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଫେଜ୍କୁ ଓରାଲ୍ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସମିଟ୍ ହେଉଛି କଥା ଦ୍ୱାରା। ଆମେ ବେଦଟା କହୁଛେ, ସ୍ମୃତି କାହିଁ କହୁଛେ, କାରଣ ଇଟ୍ସ ଓରାଲି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସମିଟେଡ୍। ବେଦକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ସ୍ମୃତି ଲିଟରେଚର କହୁଛେ, ବେଦ ଇଜ୍ ନଟ୍ ରିଟିନ୍ ୱାନ୍। ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ବେଦିକ ପିରିୟଡ଼ କଥା କହୁଛେ, ସେତେବେଳେ ରିଟିନ୍ ନଥିଲା ଏଟା, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା ନାଇଁ କି, କାରଣ ଏଟା ଓରାଲି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସମିଟେଡ୍ ହେଉଥିଲା। ଯେତେବେଳେ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ରିଟିନ୍ ରେକର୍ଡସ୍ ନଥାଏ, ଆଉ ଯାହା ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଲେଖିବା ପାଇଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଓରାଲିଟି ଉପରେ ବିଶ୍ୱାସ କରନ୍ତି କିମ୍ବା ଆମକୁ ଓରାଲିଟି ଉପରେ ଡିପେଣ୍ଡ କରିବାକୁ ପଡ଼େ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କୁହନ୍ତି ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ନୋନ୍ ଆଜ୍ ଓରାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି। କିନ୍ତୁ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ୍ ହେଉଛି ଓରାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିର, ଇନ୍ ଓରାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ୱି ମେ ହାଭ୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଓପିନିଅନ୍। ୟା ଅର୍ଥ ହେଉଛି, ଭାବି ନିଅନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍ ଅଛି, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି, ଗୋଟେ କନ୍ଧ ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍ ଅଛି, ଭାବି ନିଅନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ 50 ଏକର ଗୋଟେ ଭାବନ୍ତୁ 40-50ଟା ଗାଁ ଅଛି, ଯେଉଁଗୁଡ଼ାକ ଆମେ କନ୍ଧ ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍ ଗୋଟେ ଗାଁ ଗୁଡ଼ାକ କହୁଛି, 50ଟା ଗାଁ ହେଉଛି କନ୍ଧ ଗାଁ କିମ୍ବା କନ୍ଧ ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି। ଫର୍ ଏକ୍ଜାମ୍ପଲ୍, ଧରାଯାଉ ଯଦି ଓରାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ସିମିଲାର ଓପିନିଅନ୍ ନ ଆସୁଛି ଏମଙ୍ଗ ଦ ସେମ୍ ଗ୍ରୁପ୍, ଧରାଯାଉ ଭାବି ନିଅନ୍ତୁ 50 ଜଣ ଲୋକ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି, ଗୋଟେ
सर
ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍କୁ ବିଲଙ୍ଗ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ହ୍ୟାଲୋ,
सर
କ'ଣ କିଏ କହିଲେ?
अनाउंस स्कूल थोड़ा बता दीजिए सर, असाइनमेंट में क्वेश्चन है।
ओ ओके, गुड, जस्ट गिव मी वन
टाइम भी
सेकेंड।
नहीं है।
ओके ओके, आई अंडरस्टूड। ये तो प्रॉब्लम है, आप क्या करें, वो सिस्टम का प्रॉब्लम है, वी कैन डू एनीथिंग, राइट? सो
ओके सर।
anyway, okay, just give me 2 to 3 minutes and let me complete this. So in the
ओके
oral
सर।
history, just try to understand, oral history can be challenged. The reason is that in the oral narratives, we may have different worldviews of the people whom we are dealing with. That means, suppose you are talking about a tribe and their lifestyle. If you totally depend upon the oral narratives, we may have different opinion. Suppose your grandfather said something, one opinion. We are belong to the same society. My grandfather, great grandfather, having different opinion about the same happenings. During in such situation, it is very difficult to reach into a conclusion. Suppose there was a tribal fight. For example, there was a tribal fight between two tribal groups, and we don't have any kind of written records. And while dealing with the causes of the fight or the conflict between these two groups, what we were doing, we are depending upon the oral narratives or oral sources. In such situation, if we have more than one views, it is very difficult to establish or generalize in the history. So here generalization also failed. So that's why oral history or oral narratives is not always acceptable fully in the history writing. Oral narratives always, plays as a secondary role in the history writing. You understood this point? ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ସମସ୍ତେ?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
And time nahi, we have to move forward. Okay. Let's talk about the annal school. Annal school, annal school. Okay. So, mute କରନ୍ତୁ କେହି ଜଣେ ଅଛନ୍ତି ତ ମୋତେ sound ହଉଛି. Kindly mute that. Okay. Thank you. So, annal school developed in France in 1930s. ମନେ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ, annal school ହଉଛି ଆମର develop ହେଇଛି in 1930s, first in the France. Okay. In 1929, a journal got published, and the title of the journal is Annals, Annals, Annals. Economy, Annals. Just remember that the journal name is Annals. Okay. So, the purpose of this journal is that to cover all elements of the history beyond the majoritarian view of the history. It means previously, as I said, most of the historian gives importance on the great happenings, of the big happenings of the historical process. It may be war, it may be, big changes in the society, events of the society, about the people, about the great man, about the big man, or who is having more influence in the society. So basically, previously, political history plays a very significant role in the history writing. Political history plays a very significant role in the history writing. So when this particular journal came out in 1929, after that, the scholars who got associated with this particular journal in France, they developed a new theory, and that is known as annal school. Annal school, there are some of the propounder of the annal school. For example, we have the Lucien Febvre. It is in your book. Lucien Febvre, Marc Bloch, Ferdinand Brodel. These are the some of the scholars. All these names are there in your materials, so don't worry. Okay, all these names are there. So the idea is that, so when these scholars came forward with new ideas, within a short span of time, the ideas became so popular. Why? Because this group of scholars became so prominent in the history writing because their involvement with diverse, their involvement in the diverse historical process, they also interacted, or they also involved all kind of phenomena, historical phenomena, which is happening or what have happened in the history writing. That means beyond political history, they try to deal with all aspects of the society. It may be social history, it may be cultural history, it may be economic history. Take the case of Brodel. He talks about history of mentalities. History of mentalities means how the people perceive a society. We can give one example. Suppose I am a non-educated person and you are an educated person. The way you are looking at the society, or the way you are looking or perceiving the society, may have different opinion from me, because you are educated man. If you simplify more, take the case we general election. We have election in every 5 years. For the common man who does not have any kind of education, proper education, he may have different opinion from the person who is relatively educated, because educated person may have different opinion or different worldview about the election or election process, whereas the common people, he hardly thinks about the world view or hardly thinks about the greater view of the society. ଆମେ ସିମ୍ପ୍ଲିଫାଏ ଆହୁରି କରୁଛେ, ଗୋଟେ ସାଧାରଣ ଲୋକ ପାଇଁ, ଯେ କମନ ଲୋକ ଭାବି ନିଅ, ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେଉଛେ, ସିଏ ଇଲେକ୍ସନଟାକୁ ସେତେ ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱ ଦେଉନି, କିମ୍ବା ତା ପାଇଁ ଇଲେକ୍ସନ କ'ଣ, he hardly thinks about the election, ତାକୁ କେମିତି ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟ ବେନିଫିଟ୍ ମିଳୁଛି, ଯଦି ତାକୁ ରାସନ ମିଳୁଛି କିମ୍ବା ଅଲଗା କିଛି ତାକୁ ମିଳୁଛି from the government sources, he thinks about that thing. But what about the educated man or the relatively enlightened man? He thinks about the greater interest of the country. And there is no difference, or you can say that in that sense, the poor people or the illiterate people, he does not have any kind of loyal to his own country. No, he is having. But the thing is that due to the lack of education or due to the lack of proper literacy, what is happening, his worldview is totally different from the worldview of another person who is relatively educated one. So the point is here, what this particular group of historians is saying, that we may have different worldview of different aspects of history. So we should not limitize our study only to the political history, only the narratives of the great people or the events, or largely which plays a very significant role in the historical process. या अर्थ आम जदि कहूचे आनल स्कूल होची रिलेटिवली टोटल हिस्ट्री होची हिस्ट्री रो सब आस्पेक्ट गुड़ाक स्टडी हवा दरकार. All aspects need to be studied properly. Because all the aspects of the history have equal importance, we should not sideline one aspect while dealing with the larger phenomena of the history. Yeah, ତେଣୁ ଏଇ total history ଆମର ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ became so popular in 70s and 80s, and now it has covered all aspects or all themes of the history. It may be sports, it may be it may be cultural aspects, cinemas, environment, entertainment, transport, everything. You'll be surprised that now recently, before 2 years back, a project was completed in Germany, in Göttingen University. Okay, the project title was the Indian Coffee House. Indian Coffee House. What does it mean? That during the British colonial period, is new kind of coffee house developed, just like our McDonald's, or you can say KFC. And what was the role of those coffee houses? In the historical process, a project is completed in your past. And the point is here, why did I give the example of that coffee house? Each and every aspects of history having equal importance. So in that direction, we should not only support the view or support the view who of the historians who only develop the political history or the idea that linked with the great events or the great people. A point I বুঝি পারলে?
Yes, sir.
Okay, time is କାରଣ ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କର ଅଲଗା କ୍ଲାସ୍ ଅଛି, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି ନା ନାଇଁ କି? ଯଦି କାହାର କିଛି ଡାଉଟ୍ କୌଣସି ଥିମ୍ ଉପରେ ହୁଏ, ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କୁ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇଛି, ଲାଷ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାସ୍ରେ ମୁଁ କହିଥିଲି, ତେଣୁ ଆପଣମାନେ ମୋତେ ଲେଖିକି ପଠାଇ ପାରନ୍ତି ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପ୍ରେ, ଆଇଲ୍ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲେନ୍, ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, ଯଦି
नंबर
କିଛି
नहीं
ବି
है
डाउट हो,
सर.
नंबर नहीं है 87630
हेलो.
okay, madam, just write down. Yeah, just write down.
बोलिए सर.
Okay,
डोंट
okay, 87630
कौन 7630 87
630 49
49
512.
512.
Okay, what you do, ଯେତେବେଳେ ବାପା କିଛି ଲେଖୁଛ, 8763049512. While writing to me, okay, just say that I'm a student from IGNOU. Otherwise, I'll get confused. Okay, because I have my own students, so there is confusion. Okay, so kindly मते जणेबे कि आपण कहबे जे मो IGNOU रा स्टूडेंट कहूची. ठीक अछि ना नहीं कि डोंट.
सर
Yes please.
सर टिके आउ थरे नंबर
87630
87
630
630
49
49
512.
512 ठीक है
ओके तेणु आपण मैंने
थैंक
जिते
यू
मत किसी लिखिए व्हाट्सएप लिखिए. ठीक अच्छे जब किसी डाउट हुए आई विल एक्सप्लेन. ठीक अच्छे. ओके
ओके सर
ओके या बेस्ट
थैंक
विशेस
यू
फॉर
सर
एग्जाम.
थैंक यू
ओके
सर
या.
थैंक यू
Thank you, sir.
ए दे शीघ्र जा एटा हमटे लगेया कोइची टा उठेलो से फास्ट खाइ को लागते पाठ सुनती